Hello, and welcome to Entrusted. This is the podcast where we spend time talking with people who are sharing their gifts in the world because the gifts that you've been given need to be shared. So, on this show, we bring people on the show who are sharing those special sauce gifts that they have and that they've been entrusted with. And I hope as you watch, you'll be thinking of the gifts that you've been entrusted with and how you can best bring them forth into the world. So today we'll be talking with our guest, Annette Ahrens, who's not only one of the sweetest, gentlest, kindest souls on the planet, she's about to blow your mind with the coolest discovery she's made. She's the founder of Snow Crystal Designs by Annette Ahrens and has been on my radar for years since I saw what she was working on to have her on this podcast. So welcome to Entrusted, Annette.
Thank you.
It's so good to have you here.
I'm really happy to be with you, Susan.
Wonderful. Well, hey, let's start by letting people know what it is that you're sharing with the world. Would you mind giving our listeners a bit of an overview of what you do?
Sure. I'm all about snowflakes. I feel like I'm called to share the beauty and the wonder of snowflakes. And I do that in a number of different ways. Basically, three parts to my business. I photograph the snowflakes. That's the big part of it. I photograph snowflakes individually, capture their intricate beauty, and I share those snowflakes with the world through, just I have a printer. I print them out and frame them and share them that way. Second thing I do is to create designs with them and sell them on a print-on-demand website. And then kind of a third thing, it's not related to the photos, but it's just, like I said, I'm all about snowflakes, and I just have another creative outlet for that. And I make hand-beaded crystal and glass ornaments, sun catchers, and crystal necklaces.
That's great.
Yeah.
I can't wait to get into a little bit more about what inspired this. So, when did you first think of taking a closer look at snowflakes?
It started when my son was in grade school, and we read a book from the library called Snowflake Bentley, and it was about Wilson Bentley, the first snowflake photographer. He was in Vermont in the late 1800s. So he was photographing snowflakes with a bellows camera and a microscope setup that he rigged up. But, we were fascinated with the book, and we thought, I wonder if we could do that. So we just had a cheap kid's plastic microscope, and my son and I, just through trial and error, saw a snowflake up closer in this microscope. Like I said, it was not a good microscope, so the image was kind of blurry, but I saw enough detail that it blew me away. And that just kind of stuck with me. And it was a few years later that, we had a better microscope because I was homeschooling the kids at the time and needed a better microscope for middle school. And I thought, I need to try this again. And I did. And it's been trial and error and love ever since.
That is amazing. So you were homeschooling at the time. Can I ask how many kids you were homeschooling?
4.
4.
Yeah.
Wow. And you go to the library, you get out this book, and this inspires you. I have to know. So you said you were blown away. What were the kids' reactions?
They thought it was cool. And then they moved on with life. But for some reason, it just stuck with me. And I had to look at it again. And, once I started seeing how beautiful they were, I had to start showing people, telling my family, come look at this, come look at this.
That's amazing. What about the snowflake captivated you?
Just the intricate beauty, just everything about it, the symmetry, the detail of the crystals. I don't know, just the whole wonder of it, and being able to see something
Mm.
so intricate and so detailed that, you don't really realize that that's what it's like. That a snowflake has 6 sides, that it's got some shape to it, but
Is
man,
it true? Oh, I apologize. Go ahead.
yeah, no, I was going to say it, and I know what you're about to ask because everybody asks, is it true no two are alike?
How'd you know?
Wilson Bentley, back in the 1800s, photographed thousands of snowflakes. He never found two alike. I have not either. I've been doing this since 2018. And just the way the snowflakes form as they're falling through the air, the conditions are constantly changing, so it's virtually impossible for two to be exactly the same. There are certainly similar types of snowflakes, but no two exactly the same.
How are you able to capture that snowflake, have it with the microscope, and it's not melting? Are you letting it fall onto the plate? Do you have to do anything to get it there? Do you want to talk
Right.
about the
That took a
process a
lot
little
of,
bit?
yeah, sure. That took a lot of trial and error.
I can imagine.
Yeah. And I'm still trying to perfect it. But yes, I work on the front porch so that nothing's melting. Um, I have to have the microscope out there about 30 minutes before I start working so that the slide can be very cold. I put a blanket on the railing of my porch to catch the snowflakes, let the snowflakes fall in them. And then I look very closely to see if any of them look like they're not broken. I use a tiny paintbrush to transfer the snowflake to the microscope slide. And then I have my iPad set up on a tripod with the camera pointed down the eyepiece of the microscope. And I actually, for a lot of these, take the picture with my iPad camera pointed down the eyepiece of the microscope.
That is
Yeah.
the coolest thing ever.
And I have to work, it can't be a real windy day. I've had plenty of times where I had the one that got away, I have it on my paintbrush, I'm moving over to the microscope slide and the wind catches it and blows it away. I said, well,
Oh
guess we're
no.
not photographing that one today.
Teaches you a lot about letting go, I bet.
Oh
It's
yeah, yeah.
oh, I'm sure
And
you've seen
lots of
some beautiful.
patience.
Mm,
Yeah, it's a very what's the word I want? It just takes a lot of patience and going with the flow of whatever's happening with the snow that day. Sometimes the crystals are very nicely formed and sometimes they're not. There are so many different types of snow crystals. I've been
have-
finding that for me in my little microclimate here in Erie, Middle Creek, Pennsylvania, about 15 degrees Fahrenheit seems to be the sweet spot, and low humidity. That combination seems to be the sweet spot to get those really nicely formed crystals.
right. Oh, so you mentioned patience. I'm curious, how has, besides the process, but even what you're working with and seeing the uniqueness of the snowflakes, how has your faith been impacted by this? Or I know that I've seen some of your work and you reference God in this. Can you tell me a little bit about that?
Yeah, yeah. The snowflakes are just so beautiful. I mean, there are a lot of beautiful things in nature, but something about the snowflakes really touches my heart. And I really think that seeing something beautiful, the way it touches you is a piece of God touching you. I really think beauty is one way that God speaks to us. Um, and I just, I want to share that, not only the coolness, the uniqueness of these snowflakes, but that beauty. And I can see that it touches people when I do, I sell my snowflake photos at craft shows, and I can see it touching people,
Mm.
deeply. Um, and so many people just stand there and look at the photos and say, they are so amazing. And I like to remind people to look at themselves that way. I say, you are just as amazing. You were created just as beautifully, and even more so, because God, created you in love, but just as uniquely and just as beautifully. And that whole thought process, just stuck with me for a long time until I finally was inspired to create this one piece, where I have a snowflake in the middle, and around it, it says, "You are unique, sacred, loved." And I just want people to know that. And I didn't know if that would sell, but I wanted to at least get that message out. I thought, well, if I at least have it on the table, people can read it and know it about themselves. That piece has become one of my best sellers. So it's really speaking to people. Yeah.
Yeah. And that message does need to be in the world. So I
Yeah.
love what you've done with that. I
And
love to,
when I sell that
yes,
piece, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
no, that's fine.
When I sell that piece, I've made little cards that I can give to the person receiving that, just kind of expanding on that idea of you are unique, sacred, and loved. I think I write something like, you were created like no one else, in the image of the author of beauty, truth, and goodness.
It's
And you are
beautiful.
loved infinitely by that author. Yeah.
Mm. I think that's one of the things when I've seen your work that I think about is how, like you've used the word intricate, these snowflakes are, how unique, and yet they're sent to the earth and unnoticed by so many people and can land on our windshield or our mittens or whatever. And it melts within seconds. And I am the message that you're talking about. What a reminder. What a reminder. And if he can create a snowflake that's so tiny and that will be gone in seconds, how much more he put into each of us. That's just so beautiful.
Yeah.
I'm so curious. Has creativity always been a part of your life?
Yes. When I was little, I, colored all the time. I was always drawing. Um, Art was always my favorite subject, although math was a close second. I love math.
Ooh,
But
I admire you.
yeah, loved art. High school, I did, had a great art teacher who introduced me to oil painting. So I did oil painting through high school. Even I didn't study art in college, but in my college years, I continued to do, some painting.
So you have an
And
artist's eye.
I guess, I don't know. I just have always been drawn to it. Um, when I started having a family, I didn't have so much time to create art, or I didn't make the time for it, but I enjoyed giving them the opportunity to find ways to express themselves. And, had the 4 kids. Some of them were very drawn to the arts and the crafts. Like I said, I was homeschooling the kids at the time. That gave us time that allowed me to give them the opportunity and the time to really lean into the things that they were drawn to. So, one of them was very into piano. Some were very much into the arts and crafts, some for creative writing, some graphic design. So, yeah, it,
That's
it just,
wonderful. I'm sure that they reflect on those things now and use those things in their life, and even just the way that they see them. I know that you've photographed snowflakes. I know that you also have some other images that you've looked at under the microscope. I'm Can you share a little bit about other ones that you've looked at? What's your well, you've said your favorite, so I can't really ask that.
yeah. So I've been photographing the snowflakes for how many years is that now? 7 or so. And last year I just started wondering what else is out there waiting for us? What other beautiful things are hiding right under our noses, that we aren't aware of because we haven't looked very closely. So using the microscope and the iPad camera is one way that I photograph the snowflakes, but another way is I have a small point and shoot camera that happens to have a very good close-up setting. So some of them I do that way. I catch them on a glass table in the yard and photograph them that way. So that little point and shoot camera, to answer your question, I carry it around now. And my favorite question is, I wonder what this looks like up close. I wonder what this looks like up close. So I'm always, going around looking at things with this camera and taking pictures of them. And again, just blown away by the things that I see. So other things I've done, the dandelion seed heads, that one just blew me away. You see the little dandelion parachute things floating around with the little seed on the end, but I had no idea how intricate
Incredible.
they are, just the design in them. And then dewdrops on grass, and the dewdrops reflecting the sky and the grass and everything around it. Yeah, I was playing hide and seek with my grandkids one day. I was ducked down with my one granddaughter, hiding from the grandson, and there was just a little strip of moss in the cracks between the patio pavers. So we're scrunched down there hiding, and I'm looking at this moss, and I could see it was like a few different kinds of moss in the crack, and some were taller. And so the next day I said, I have to go look at this closer. So I got the camera out and took some pictures, and it looked like this little lush forest.
Oh,
it
wow.
was so cool. But you'd never know it just looking at it. It's just moss in the cracks between the pavers. But
Something we step over every day.
Right.
And there it is. Oh, that's amazing. So how did you first start sharing your images with other people? I know you didn't just jump into a business. How did you first, look at this. This is so cool.
Right. Well, first I started calling my family over to the microscope. Look at this. And then I wanted to, just show my family and friends. So I, believe it or not, with my iPhone 5, I held that down the eyepiece of the camera. This was before I figured out to set up the iPad on the tripod. Excuse me. Just started taking pictures with the iPhone 5. There's one photograph I have that's actually one of my most popular ones that I actually took with the iPhone 5. Just the way it was a happy little accident because the eyepiece of the microscope kind of moved, and I took the picture, and it almost looked like an eclipse, that like the snowflake was an eclipse. Anyway.
Oh, that's neat.
Yeah. So just started sharing with my friends and family, showing them the pictures on the phone or the iPad. And then I just wanted to, I don't know, just the creativity in me wanted to do something with these photos. So I started creating, I opened a Zazzle store. For those who aren't familiar with Zazzle, it's a print-on-demand company where a designer can create designs and apply them to different items that Zazzle will print your design on. And then they take care of the manufacturing of it and shipping it.
What other capacity are you sharing your art with others?
So I did that for a few years. I didn't have a lot of time to go too deeply into exploring what I can do with the photographs. Besides that, I was caring for my mom at the time. She had, through her mid and final years of dementia, she was living in our home. So
Mm.
you know, after she was in bed at night was my
Sorry.
time to be creative.
Oh, it
But
must have been an outlet for you as well.
it was. And then after she passed, you know, people still kept saying, you have to share these photos with people. You have people would buy these. You need to sell these. So I thought, all right, I'll try a craft show. I have no idea if anybody would want to buy these, but I'll give it a try. If I can at least get my booth feedback, I'll be happy. But the main thing is, yeah, I do want to share these because they're so incredible, and
They
just the
really are.
beauty of it and the wonder of it. You know, I just want to inspire wonder in people, you know,
Mm,
and just allow them to be touched by that beauty. Yeah.
mhm.
So yeah, it turns out people are very interested in snowflake photos. Um,
That's, I think, where I saw it was at the craft fair booth. And I
mm,
myself was, that was my reaction, was just, oh my word, I was blown away. And you're right. It's something that we pass by every day, wouldn't have even noticed it. So it's almost like you're slowing down time for all of us, giving us this opportunity to see something so incredibly beautiful.
yeah,
Um,
thank you for
y-
saying that. I
oh
get that a
yeah.
lot from people. You know, I had a friend who said, I just love it when you share your photos on your Facebook page. She said, I'm just mesmerized by them. And
Hmm. I
um,
see why.
and
So, oh, please go ahead.
yeah, I was just going to say, a lot of people who stop by my booth at the craft shows, you know, they're just fascinated by it, as we all are. You know, every time I see one under the microscope, not every time, but many times, I get it focused and it literally takes my breath away. I'm like, oh my goodness. You know, even though I know how beautiful they are and I kind of know what to expect, still, they're just all so different and so intricate. And yeah, it still takes my breath away. But yeah, so people at the craft fair just think it's so cool. And it's fun to watch their reactions when it finally clicks that they're not just looking at random snowflakes, but these are snowflakes that landed on my porch or in my yard, and I photographed them and they're blown away. I had another point I was going to say. Oh, and then so, and then other times, you know, I've had on a few occasions people standing there looking at them, and I can see tears come to their eyes. And that's when I know that I've accomplished what I want to accomplish, because they're being touched by the beauty. And I think that's just so important, you know, to be open to receiving that gift, which I think is from God. I don't know if everybody sees it that way, but they're being
Mhm.
touched, their soul is being touched by something. And I think that something is beauty. And I think beauty comes from God. So
Mm.
I think
That's
they're in that way being touched by God, I think. Yeah.
right. And I have to agree with you. And it's like you're creating space for them to encounter God
Yeah.
within his creation in something that, like you said, is so intricate, so unique, so um, moving to whoever is looking at it. And and that's kind of neat that you sit back and let them receive out of it what it is that they're to receive out of it, instead of like showing them and all of this. It's just you're letting them just kind of come by and see it.
Yeah.
That's wonderful. So when you started this business, were there any talents that you surprised yourself you already had that made it easier? Were there any that um, stumbling blocks? Tell us about starting a business
Hmm.
and what kind of talents you had to use for that.
Yeah. I think some of what I learned in high school, in my high school painting class, um, you know, stuck with me about color theory and
Mm.
composition. And I can still hear my art teacher saying light against dark, dark against light. um, so, you know, those kinds of things that kind of pull into it. I, I, I I have trouble calling myself a photographer, even though everybody refers to me as a photographer, because I don't know a whole lot about photography, believe it or not. But I'm learning. So that's one of the things that I've had to work through, is to, you know, learn my camera that I'm working with. Still learning that. Someday I hope to use a real camera. And that'll be something else I'll have to learn. I had to learn photo editing software. I had no experience with that, so I just had to work my way through that. Still am.
Right.
Yeah.
Wow. So that's interesting. There are obstacles then to achieving the goal of bringing awe and wonder to people. The fun part is the seeing it, but you've pushed through. That's amazing. Um, have you ever encountered an obstacle that, well, you've mentioned, you had to learn with your camera and all of this, but what about like the business side of things where you said you're good at math? Has that been easy for you? Has that been a challenge?
Um,
Didn't mean to stump you.
yeah. I guess I've been able to work through things. A big challenge for myself personally is, this is silly, but spreadsheets.
No, I get
Spreadsheet
it.
software. I am
I
not very
totally
good
get
at
it.
that. So my
Yeah.
husband, God bless him, my husband jumps in and, he says, I can put that together for you. So, okay, I'll let you do that. So
Yeah.
he can do something
No,
in 5 minutes that would take me an hour to do.
isn't it wonderful? We
He's been
balance
my
one
right
another.
hand man. I have to give shout out to my husband. Yeah.
That's great. So this has become, it's involved your family then. I love that. And I bring that up. I didn't mean to stump you. I brought that up because I want to I'm always thinking about people that listen because that was me. When I thought of doing a podcast, when I had thought of writing a book, I remember looking to outside myself to be inspired to think, oh, I could do that. I could do that, because it's really interesting when you have sort of this an eye to see things, or with any talent that is. It's so difficult to overcome that self-doubt or the fear that comes with that. And so that's why I was asking you. And because I knew because I just saw your Zazzle site that you pushed through and you were able to do that. Um, but it was important to you. There was that drive for you to bring your art to the world to inspire people with beauty and wonder. And I'm just grateful. I'm grateful that you've been able to push through because had you not gone to the business side of things, I don't know that I would have seen your art if you had not pushed through those and learned um, the way that you could show that to the world. So thank you for that. Are people able to contact you? I know most of what you do is somewhat local. You do have your Zazzle site. Are people able to contact you if they saw a piece of art that they might be interested in?
Yeah. Yeah. They could email me. I think my email has been up on the screen there. I'm happy to work with anybody. My photographs, my ornaments, sun catchers, my necklaces, those are all things that I'm creating here at home. And I am happy to work with anybody and get those into their hands. Those items are also in some of the local stores, West Side Market on Powell, Lake Erie Variety, Presque Isle Gallery and Gifts, and Park Coffee and Bread Company. Um,
Oh,
some of them have the photographs, some have the magnets. Oh, magnets is another way that
I
something
have
else
one on
I
my board.
create with the photos.
Yes. Yes.
So
I
yeah,
love.
so those items you can get locally, and then other items that I create designs for on Zazzle, you can only get on Zazzle. Um, pillows and mugs and wrapping paper, things like that. Things that can be customized. You know, a lot of the designs I make, they can change the color, they can change the text. So personalize it, customize it.
I just want to clarify. So everything that has the snowflake on it, those snowflakes are are patterned after us, one of the snowflakes that you've photographed, or they are they are the actual snowflake. Can you
Right. Some
explain
of the
that a little bit?
designs that I create for the magnets or for the Zazzle items either have a photograph that I've taken, or I have done something with that photograph to create, you know, something else. Like I do a I love Erie mug and magnet, and but the love thing is a snowflake. So that snowflake might not look like a photograph of a snowflake, but it is. But I created it with one of my photos. Um, Sometimes I just take the snowflake and make it real small and change the pattern and make little patterns like this.
So cute. I love it.
Yeah. So everything was, yeah, every design was started with one of my photos. Yeah.
That's great. So, as we get ready to wrap up the podcast, do you have any advice for someone who has made a discovery of their own, found something so beautiful, or something that moves them and they want to share it with the world, but maybe need that confidence boost, like I was saying that I needed? Do you have any advice for them?
Yeah. I would say two things. I would say if it's touching your heart, it's probably going to touch somebody else's heart. So go ahead and share it. Um, and the other thing is, you know, I'm somebody who always has to see the whole picture before I take a step. And I heard a piece of advice that actually got me going. I have a friend who started a photography business. She photographs families and individuals, but and she's come a long way. So proud of her. But she shared something that helped her get started, and she heard the phrase "do it afraid,"
Uh,
meaning, you know, you might not see exactly where it's all going to go, but don't be afraid to take that first step. Just do it afraid. So I thought
right.
that was good advice. I That's the piece of advice that got me to try the first craft show.
That's brilliant.
And that just opened up a whole bunch of things from there.
Oh, that's wonderful. Well, thank you so much for, first of all, putting your talent in the world. I'm a life that's been touched by it. Thank you for being on the podcast. This has been a wonderful conversation. I really appreciate you being here. And as far as doing it afraid and not knowing what is the next step, we're at the very beginning of this adventure with this podcast, and we need your help. So I would ask that you would please, if this is, you found value in this, please share our links. You'll find them in the comments below. I'm so glad that you've been able to be here, join us with Annette Ahrens. And I look forward to spending more time with you in the future. Thanks so much. God bless you. And I can't wait to be with you again.